Welcome to Regulate This, a really unfiltered podcast.
I'm Tracie Bear, and whether you're a seasoned professional or just starting out, the podcast is here to inform and empower you in your compliance journey. My co-host is the infamous Leila Shaver.
Oh, I love that word, infamous.
Well, today, Leila, we're going to talk about a topic that I think a lot of people are going to love. We're going to talk about referrals. Now, that doesn't sound as sexy as it could, but this is really a practical and fun way to grow your business through word of mouth. So let's talk about how you do them correctly.
Yes, we need to talk about how to do them correctly because a lot of advisors out there depend on referrals, and many RIAs are growing organically through referrals. But oftentimes when I ask advisors and owners, and I say, okay, great, you're getting referrals. Are you asking for them? Do you send out a survey? Do you have like a script you use at some point to ask for a referral? Like how are you getting the word of mouth referrals back? And it's, the clients will just reach out to us when they have someone to refer. It's like, oh, okay. So you don't want to do any work. You're just going to let the client come whenever they decide to send you a referral. But you're not actually going to ask for what you want. You're not going to ask them to send you some names of people you can help. You're not going to ask them after you've been successful setting them up or resolving an issue. Hey, who else do you know that I can help with a similar issue, right? So we're not being proactive, we're being reactive.
Right. I once was at a chiropractor, and after he had adjusted me and everything, he went to grab something for me, and I was sitting looking around his office, and he had this plaque up. And it said something along the lines of, I'm just going to paraphrase it, but it said something along the lines of, I appreciate the compliments on the good work, but the best compliment you can pay me is to send other people to me so I can help them like I've helped you. And I was like, I could kiss this guy. Not really, especially if my husband's listening. Not really. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is so brilliant, because so many times, people will say, whether it's the chiropractor saying, you make me feel so much better, or whether it's the financial advisor, you've saved my bacon, you've helped me so much, I'm going to be able to retire, I didn't think I would ever get to do it, or whatever it is that they're complimenting you on, you're so easy to deal with, you explain things so well, I've never had this type of experience. And instead of using that to talk to the client and build deeper rapport and say, oh my gosh, I'm so happy we could help you. If you feel that there are other people that I could help as well, I'd love to have that opportunity to help them the way that I've helped you. It gives you not only a chance to help other people that they know, but also build rapport with that client. It also helps to find out if you're calling them, for example, or talking to them, and you're getting feedback to find out how well you're doing with them, because sometimes it's not only referrals, it's additional business with the people you have. But, just sitting there and waiting in the wings, hoping that they remember you like you're a, wallflower, not only is it not being proactive, it's not allowing life to work through you. It's expecting people to do it for you. Really, the best thing that you can do is establish that you're a professional to the people that you have and leverage that in order to help more people and provide guidance, because most people's ultimate goal, well beyond money, well beyond all those things, is how many people can I help? How could I make it so more people could retire and be comfortable and not be like the story I just saw online that talked about an 81-year-old woman heading to Home Depot to work to support her and her 90-year-old husband. Don't you think she probably wishes somebody that cared about her, that had somebody that helped them, would have referred her so she wouldn't have to be slugging her way to Home Depot to be on her feet all day because she doesn't have adequate means to support herself?
No, I mean, it's a sad story, and there is no shortage of people who need access to good financial advice. But what I find is a lot of times advisors are like, oh, our clients love us. They'll refer business, as they come across someone that they know that could use our help. But I feel like, as a psychology degree holder, I'm going to use it, for the first time in 20 years maybe. It's like, there's almost a sense of anxiety or fear to ask for what we want. It's almost like money. Like when people talk about money, there's such a negative connotation around it. So recently, and I'm going to go down a little bit of a rabbit hole, but I promise I'll come back. Recently, I met with a client of ours, and they had received some sort of award, and it was related to the amount of AUM they had. And they were asking, like, well, what do you think about us going out and telling our clients, like, hey, we've surpassed, I don't know, 250 million or 300 million in AUM. And I was like, why is that a problem? And it's like, because I don't want people to feel like, oh, look at all this money, you must be rich. I'm like, you're looking at it the wrong way. 300 million is indication of how many clients you're helping, how you've improved lives. It's an indication of the growth you've created for these different households, the future you're helping them leave behind, helping them create a legacy. And as you grow, you're telling your clients that we're helping more and more people. If anything, you should use that to celebrate. Yes, we're helping all these clients and we want to help more. So who do you know that could really use our help? So it's really about changing the mindset around asking what you want, asking for a referral, and just hiding behind this, well, we don't do marketing, we're not aggressive, we grow, organically. Yeah, when the markets are growing, you are growing organically because all your clients' accounts are increasing in value. But as a business owner, as a mature entrepreneur, you have to make sure you are able to sustain the business and continue to take care of your clients, but also pay for your expenses, pay for your staff. So as a responsible business owner, you should be trying to grow your business, right? Because inevitably there'll be people leaving and you've got to cover that shortfall. And then, things get more expensive over time. I remember when I was a kid, phone calls on the public phone were 25 cents. I remember when they went up to 50 cents. Now you got to pay for a damn computer in your pocket to make phone calls. The world changes. So there's so many people out there to help, and the stopping point is almost like our own fear, our own mindset, and our own issues with what it means to manage money. Part of that being the negative connotation associated with money too.
No, I agree with you. I think it's also what you do after you get over that hurdle. I mean, I agree with you. It's breaking down those barriers, those societal norms that don't have to exist if we don't allow them to exist. But then after you ask, then what do you do if they actually respond and volley back and give you a referral? It's making sure that you're also following the whole process the whole way through. So if you've been able to find the intestinal fortitude to have a meaningful conversation with a client to say, hey, I'm so happy we've been able to work together and we've been able to make such strides. Who do you know that I should know that I can help? If you've been able to actually get those words out of your mouth, the next step is making sure you're following up. Make sure you're reaching out. Make sure if the client needs to do an introduction that they're doing that you're volleying back with the client and thanking them and letting them know you appreciate it. And you can't wait to meet with the person that they referred, and you're so looking forward to be able to help those friends or families or colleagues or whoever it is, their neighbor, because when they realize that it isn't just the white glove treatment you're giving them, but you're willing to help those people they care about, you're going to get more and more business. And not only does that help you financially and help your team financially, it's helping the clients, it's helping the world. There are so many people right now that are in those pickles that don't really know what to do or how to do it, or maybe they've met people that have scammed them or have not been sincere or whatever the case may be. You can change that narrative. You can give yourself a better name. You can give the industry a better name. Again, it's instead of letting it happen to you, let it happen through you. Quit waiting for the phone to ring and be Johnny on the spot to pick it up. Make the phone ring. And you can do it with no money.
Yeah, no marketing company necessary to pick up the phone and call. But I think you're absolutely right. It's a simple and easy thing to do. It's helping grow your business, but you have to be methodical. So I'm going to drop some words, Tracie, that you and I are familiar with. That I don't know if our special listeners out there that we appreciate so much for listening to our podcast are familiar with this terminology, but this idea of a pre-engagement glide path. What the beep is a pre-engagement glide path, Tracie?
Well, it's making sure that before somebody enters, that they have all the information they need in order to have a successful and valuable meeting with you. It's making sure that you have kind of a process that you're using in order to not only have the discussions and the touch points, like how many times are we touching figuratively, not literally, how many times are we touching this prospect or this referral? And then once we establish a relationship and they're wanting to come in and talk to you or even virtually talk to you, how do they do that? What are the steps that we're going to take? There are even things you can do with your marketing dollars if you want to set up a glide path that looks more white glove, that looks more, you call this special number, you look at the special landing page. We can send it out to our clients and that say that they want to have somebody contact us, that we think they'd be a great referral. We can send that out to a client and say, here's a link to a landing page. Here's a phone number they can call. Please make sure that they know that, you are the person that referred them, and make sure they let us know that. And that way, they can also feel a little bit special. So there are a couple of ways to do it. Now, that doesn't mean you're giving one type of client really superior service and you're giving the other type of lead that comes in just run of the mill. You're treating them both the same, but you're just identifying which ones are coming from a referral stream versus which ones are coming from everyday marketing channels. And even those you should be monitoring in different, call rails or different things that allow you to know what marketing is actually working. But I think the importance of the pre-engagement glide path is to make sure they have what they need so that they show up for the meeting. It's making sure that if you're having a virtual meeting, they know what to do if they can't get logged on, so they aren't like, well, never mind. Or if it's, like I said, an in-person meeting and there are challenges for them to enter, or maybe you're on a second floor and they have to take an elevator out down a special hallway. Giving them all of that information just means that they're actually going to have an opportunity to show up without any heartburn, so that when they meet with you, they aren't already rattled and unwilling to have a really meaningful discussion. It's setting the meeting up for success.
Well, listen, if your clients are going to entrust you with their family members, with their close friends, their next door neighbors, people they know, you want to make sure that those people go back to your client and talk about what a positive experience they had with the firm. And you want to know as a client that you're getting the comfort of hearing from all of your friends, family, neighbors, etc. that you referred, that they're all having similar and consistent positive experiences. So that's really where having this pre-engagement glide path mapped out, where these are all the steps we follow. This is the process. This is how we, schedule initial call. Then I know some of the firms out there are doing a very limited scope financial plan. They may be receiving documentation, setting up a client on the portal. Creating that consistent process and building that process so it's consistent and then training your team internally to go through that process, it's actually going to ensure that your clients are sending you more and more referrals because they're going to hear the positive feedback. They're going to become the superstar in their circles of influence because the people they're referring are having such positive experiences with you. They're going to refer as many people as possible. So, why having these written processes is so important. So, Tracie, here's another kind of thing that we want to look at, though, because a lot of our clients have, and by our clients, I mean the RAs we work with, they have clients who have been working with the RA for decades. Now they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s. Referrals doesn't just mean people in their network or sphere of influence, like friends and neighbors. It's also going into the family to the next generation. So, do you think there's a different way to approach referrals to the children and grandchildren versus asking for referrals from friends and neighbors and things like that?
The answer simply is no. I mean, you're doing the same type of stuff all the time, but there are ways that you can navigate the familial bond in a different way. For example, if they're beneficiaries, you should have already had them in and been having chats with them anyway. If they're children of somebody that's 80 years old, sometimes it's nice to make sure that all the decision makers are in the room, not to say that the 80-year-old isn't making their own decisions, but oftentimes they're trying to play a game of telephone with their sons, their daughters, their nieces, their nephews, their grandchildren, whoever it is that kind of is their sounding board that helps them. And instead of doing that, sometimes inviting them into the conversation if the client is okay with that and on board with that, so that they don't have to, discuss things, especially when they're things that sometimes have a lot of variables or complex, and it makes it challenging and it makes your job more challenging. Just bring in the decision makers, bring in their sounding boards, have those conversations, and guess what? A lot of times you're going to get business from everybody. I think the other thing you can do is if you do decide to get some of those really close-knit people, it's good to have some type of a VIP entry or something like that where they're calling and you know that it's somebody that's related to somebody that you have, so that you're able to connect with them and get a little bit more information and background. Another thing you want to make sure you do is, we've talked about all of this consistency. Make sure that you have automation so that you don't have to work as hard and you can work a hell of a lot smarter. There are things that you could do, whether they're family members or whether they're just somebody that this person knows that they think it could be helpful for in their community or in card club or whatever. It's making sure that when you, for example, you could create videos. What are some of the things that are pain points for people before they get in? Or things that if they bring this, you have a better chance of having a more productive conversation. Maybe they're already with other advisors and you need them to bring in some paperwork so that you can have a conversation and compare apples to apples. But you could create a video that you could set out and say, we found that when people start to work with us, they often have more success or have a more productive meeting with us initially when we have this information. So some of the things to make our time as valuable as possible is to bring X, Y, and Z, to make sure that you have, you send us documents ahead of time if that's the case, depending on what it is you're trying to get them to come in and do. But it's making sure that you meet people where they are and quit expecting people to jump through hoops to meet with you. Because the more barriers to success you create, the more barriers to entry you create, the harder the hurdle it is for people to get in. And they're one client, you're one of many.
Yes. One of the things I want advisors to be cognizant of to is, listen, I know I'm getting older because I'm telling my kids, when I was a kid, this is how things were for us. And I didn't have that when I was a kid. And we did this and this. I'm like, oh God, I'm starting to sound like my parents. Like, listen, I get it. Average age of financial advisors, 65 to 67, depending on the source of where you're getting that data from. The point is, we're dealing with, on average, advisors that themselves are in a part of life where they're thinking about retirement, they're thinking about passing on their businesses to the next generation of financial advisor. They've gone through the peak of their career and they're kind of looking to wind down their career. So referrals is not just about bringing on the friends, the family, the neighbors of your clients who are also in their 50s, 60s, and 70s. It's also about making sure those assets stay with you through the generations. So part of doing referrals right, part of growing your business is also thinking about what are different ways in which to ask for referrals. Going to someone in their 60s and saying, hey, who do you know that you can refer me to may make sense. But when it comes to the next generation, you may have to engage in a different way. Maybe it's, Zoom calls. But think about other ways in which you can make that client feel special, right? They have a child that just graduated. Great, time to bring your high school graduate in. And we're gonna bring in our estate planning attorney. Our estate planning attorney has a college estate planning package. When that kid turns 18, you as a parent no longer have a right to their medical files, to their grades, to get personal information about them. There are things and processes and events that you can create special things around to generate more referrals. So I think it's an opportunity to kind of turn on those creative juices and start thinking about how can we have more meaningful connections with our clients. I was talking to a member of our team today related to a client complaint a client of ours had received, and the advisor hadn't talked to the client since 2023. And I know some people are like, oh shit. Yes, there's that. But that's not out of the blue. That's not necessarily unusual, right? Everyone's got clients who don't want to come in for annual meetings. They're fine. It may have been actually a few years since you've had them physically in the office. They may only do one phone call a year. A lot of RAs have those types of clients that just really don't want to participate in the conversation about their accounts. Fine. But you're missing out on an opportunity to create engagement, to engage those people, to talk them, find a way to lasso them in. So when we're talking about practical and fun ways to grow your business, for me, the fun is missing from a lot of the marketing that advisors do, right? That meaningful connections meeting, missing. When I'm talking to the client services folks at these different firms, they're talking to clients every single day. They know their kids' names, they know their grandbabies' names, they know birth dates, they know baby shower dates, they know everything. Like, this is valuable information. Get your team involved and start making meaningful connections with your clients, right? Start creating fun ways to interact and celebrate them. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
Well, and you've made a couple of really good points before we wrap up. One is get curious, build rapport, learn more. I'll tell you that before I was a lawyer, long ago, I was a banker. And exactly to your point, if somebody said, oh, my daughter's going to be graduating, or, hey, you better watch out. In 6 months, my son is getting his driver's license, so stay off the sidewalk. Well, when they say those types of things, I document that for myself so that I remember to reach back out and say, Joe's 16th birthday is coming up. Maybe you should come in and we should talk about, if you're buying a new car, do you need a car loan or whatever the case may be. Same thing as a lawyer, when people would come in and they'd say, maybe it was estate planning, and they'd say, well, I need to give this information to my daughter too. I'd say, well, if you're comfortable with it, bring her along so she can ask questions. And a lot of times I'd end up doing an estate plan for mom and dad, for the daughter and her husband, for the in-laws, because she's like, I'm not getting stuck with that crap. So it's a lot about building rapport. That's super important. And then it's making sure that you're documenting kind of what you're doing so that you know what your reach out efforts have been and you're following up consistently. And then getting your team involved helps coup-proof your firm. It helps to make sure that people aren't walking away with your clients because they only talk to that one advisor in your firm and they know no one else. So if he or she leave, now they're like, I'm left with no one. Whereas if you have client services calling, if you have other people calling, heck, I know somebody who wanted to leave a law firm and, resigned and went on and did their own thing. And when clients were informed, they said, and I can't remember the person's name, but let's say Penny. Is Penny still there? Well, yeah, Penny's here. Well, as long as Penny's there, I'm going to stay because Penny's the most helpful person you have. Penny was the receptionist. So, Penny is who kept them at the law firm, not the attorney, not the paralegals, not that they weren't great, but Penny is who they found to be the most helpful and the most wonderful when they called to talk. She was bright, she was charming, she always had a positive attitude. Everybody wanted to talk to Penny. So remember, including your team allows them to feel like they're part of your firm and not part of whatever advisor X is doing. All of these things are like double duty that help you build rapport, help you get additional business, help you get new business, help you grow your footprint, and then also coup-proof your firm, have better policies and procedures, make sure people are getting consistent and reliable delivery of services. All of this stuff is done just by being curious, just by following your process. So if you found what we're talking about today helpful, make sure you check us out on other platforms as well. We have YouTube where you can find lots of information. Go to our website, sign up for our newsletter that comes out every Friday, www.myralawyer.com. And find us anywhere you check out your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, or any other place. We're there.
Absolutely. And listen, if you are considering doing more than just referrals, you're curious about navigating the new marketing rule, you've got some compliance questions, listen, we're a law firm providing legal and compliance services to RIAs. Be sure to give us a shout. We're here to help you. Or if you're just looking for some more education, be sure to head over to Compliance University and check out all of our courses, both paid and free, that you can have access to learn more about the rules and regulations governing our business and how to make sure that as you grow your business, you're doing so compliantly. What do we always say, Tracy? Good compliance is good business. Yay!